Hello and welcome to Introduction to Meditation. We're in week 7, which means we're in the second half. And in the first half of this, we did look in some detail at what is meditation, how to do it. And we looked in a bit of detail about, what goes into the practice. So I talked about the different building blocks of what makes awareness practice. Then we looked at mantra practice. And last week we introduced loving kindness practice. So that's a pretty good base in terms of what is meditation and a bunch of different techniques. Second half, we changed track a little bit. And I'm going to focus a little bit more on why. So I tend to say, I think there are 3 reasons why people meditate. And first is people want to feel better. And I get that. That's probably why I showed up to meditation the first time. It's probably why most people show up to meditation. They've heard it's good for relaxation. They're feeling stressed or anxious or something, and they've been told, you should take a meditation class. And it works. You come to meditation and you sit and you breathe and you do these weird exercises, and most of the time you do feel a bit better. It's great. But the second reason I think people come to meditation is as a training. And there are huge numbers of different aspects to this training. At the most basic level, it is we're training ourselves in focus and discovering this different state of consciousness called present moment awareness. And we're becoming more familiar with our mind, with our bodies, with our emotions, with what's going on in our head, how our mind works, and sometimes how it doesn't work. So there's a lot of aspects around that to do with training, but there's a lot more too. And this week and in the second half, we get a lot more into that. And then the third reason people, I think, come to meditation is that there is this whole element of discovery, that I can tell you about what is meditation and how to do meditation, and I can give you all these reasons why you should meditate. And then there is more. There is a reason why people have been doing this for thousands of years as part of spiritual contemplative practices, which is that there's something else. There's something in that quiet space, whether it's getting closer to your true self. Some people feel as though you're understanding the ultimate mysteries of the universe. Some people use it to get closer to God or some concept of what the universe really looks like. Anyway, that's not the focus of this, but I always mention that third part because no matter what I say about meditation, it's limited. And I just invite you to be open to the idea that there's more, and that if you're discovering more, that's real. It's just because I didn't tell you about it doesn't mean it's not part of it. That is part of it too. But anyway, in the second half, we're mostly going to be focused on the training part and in the why. Why I think meditation is so much more and so much more important and so much better than just feeling a bit more relaxed. And we start that this week. But let's begin, as we're always going to begin, with a meditation. So we're just going to do the original foundational basic awareness meditation, just placing our attention on the breathing. So we're trying to allow our mind to rest, simply aware of the present moment, but anchored on the breathing. So just resting on the awareness of this breath. And you can do that. You can start right now. Just notice the breath you're having right now. And if your mind is anything like mine, you'll notice it's already racing and it's already trying to think about all these other things. Mine, of course, is, what are you going to say next? But wherever yours is, yours might be trying to solve problems or thinking about a conversation you had earlier today or emails or you're just worried about the state of the world or wherever it is, wherever your mind is going. But in the meditation, while all that stuff's important, in the meditation, we're just taking a break from that. We're just saying, okay, I do need to use my mind for all sorts of things, but for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to give it a break. And I'm just going to try and rest, paying attention simply to the breathing, allowing myself to become completely absorbed simply by the sensation of my breath. And, the mind is going to kick in and take you off in a million different places, and that's fine. And whenever you notice that's happened, that's the important part of the meditation, the noticing. And then returning and just starting again, seeing if you can rest back, straight back into the breathing, trying to allow everything else to fall away. So you're just absorbed by this breath. Okay, so let's give it a go. So sitting up straight is generally recommended. The instruction is always that you want to be comfortable but alert, so that you can be paying attention to where your mind is going. So sitting up reasonably straight, and take a nice deep breath in and let it all the way out. I'm going to do that again. Take another nice deep breath in, but this time hold it at the top for a moment. And then let it out very slowly. And this is a technique for starting to get the mind oriented and focused on your breathing. And when you get to the bottom, in your own time, take another nice deep breath in, and again hold it at the top. And then let it out very slowly. This time getting in touch with your body and noticing where you're holding any tension in your shoulders, in your hips, in your belly or your back, or even your face. And as you're breathing out, just relaxing any of that tension. And then allow your breathing to return to normal. And just starting to rest your attention simply on this breath. It may help you to really hone in and focus just on a specific spot at the entrance of your nose or on your lips. Like one very specific sensation. Or you may be paying attention more generally to how your body is moving as you breathe. But regardless, we're just placing our attention so that it's simply aware of this breath. And your mind will jump in and take you in hundreds of different places. And that's normal and fine, and it definitely doesn't mean you're doing it wrong or anything like that. But when you notice that it's happened, just keep returning your attention back to the breath. We'll do this for about 10 minutes. So we're about 3 minutes in, and just like to remind you to be very gentle with yourself when you notice that the mind has taken you somewhere. It really doesn't mean anything. Just notice that the mind took you off somewhere. And then the exercise is just that over and over again, we keep returning back to this breath and letting everything else fall away. Just a few minutes to go. Just like to encourage you to keep persevering. It doesn't matter how many times your mind has taken you away, or how frantic it is, or how long you went down a particular track with a thought. Whenever you notice that that's where your attention's gone, that's fine, and just keep trying to come back to the practice and keep going back to the breathing. invite you to take a deep breath in and let it all the way out. Now just to expand the area of your attention, to notice your whole body. From the top of your head, the tips of your toes. Noticing the big obvious sensations, probably like what you're sitting on. But also noticing all of the tiny little sensations. Just allowing your awareness to rest, fully absorbed by all of the tiny little sensations as well as the big sensations. Probably feel where clothing is touching your skin. Your face might even be able to feel the air. Just checking in with yourself and noticing what is the emotional feeling in your body right now. Not to have a conversation about it or try and change it or repress it or anything like that. Just see if you can simply become aware of how you're feeling. And it might be a nice feeling, but it might also be an undesirable feeling of frustration, anxiety, sadness. And in this exercise, we're just simply becoming aware of what that feeling is, regardless of whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. Just noticing. And take another deep breath in. And let it out. And when you're ready, open your eyes and connect yourself back into your room. So, one of the underlying premises of meditation is that, as wonderful as your mind is, it's fundamentally flawed in a few very specific ways. One of the ways that I have noticed, and is pointed out in various psychological studies and things, is that human beings tend to have a very inaccurate picture of themselves. Many of us tend to have this bias that we think a little bit too highly of ourselves, and I always like there's a statistic that I'm going to get slightly wrong, but it's something in the order of the fact that 70% of people believe they are above average drivers. And obviously that can't be correct. Jerry Seinfeld has a funny comedy routine, where he talks about how growing up as a boy, and he'd look at these superheroes like Batman or Superman or whatever, and these weren't so much fantasies or stories. These were career options. It's like we grow up, and certainly I think as certainly men, and I suspect women, we sort of have some sense that we are very special. I think books like the Harry Potter books, where there's this kid who's just awfully ordinary, but then he's discovered. And we're all sort of fantasizing that that's us. We're just waiting. We're waiting for people to come and knock on the door and say we're special. Now, some people have the opposite. They think far too little of themselves as well. But regardless, one of the things that's going on is we're not very accurate in seeing how we see ourselves. And certainly when it comes to this love thing, I know I have been massively deluded, I think, most of my life about my capacity for love. Or maybe not my capacity, but how loving I am. And that is that I think I had this sort of underlying sense of this capacity for love, which everybody has, not special. And, it's not really taught in school. It's sort of left to, I think it's left to the religion, so you have to sort of go to church and they'll talk about love, and they'll sort of, I think in the Judeo-Christian tradition, love thy neighbor is one of the most important commandments. And so there's love thy neighbor, and the religious figures will talk a lot about that. What does it mean? And there are stories like the Good Samaritan in the New Testament, which tell us a little bit about what this love thing means. And there are terms put out like unconditional love. And a little bit like Jerry Seinfeld and his superheroes, whenever I would sort of see these descriptions of love as unconditional, or I would read books like Scott Peck in The Road Less Traveled, the whole first section is about love. Eric Fromm wrote this fantastic book on the philosophy of love called The Art of Loving. And I'd read these books, or I'd go to church and I'd hear the stories, and I'd go, yeah, that's me. Yeah. Nothing to work on, nothing to think about. Yeah, that's me. And I think what I was doing was I was confusing this sense that I have the capacity for love for actually what they're talking about. And the thing is that it's not that I wasn't loving, it's just that I would dole it out as and well. I've got this huge capacity, or at least I have this sense that I have this huge capacity. And I would dole it out when I felt people deserved it. So somebody's nice to me, I'll be loving. Somebody's not so loving, or somebody's not so nice, and I'm not so loving. A little bit more judgmental, a little bit superior in so going, oh, well, I'm better than they are. Love is the absence of judgment, or at least that's one definition. So I think, I would dole it out sometimes, not so much other times. I would hold it in short supply in case it ran out. I had this fantastic capacity. This is, the most loving person. But I would only give it out when it was deserved, despite reading these things about this concept of unconditional love or whatever. And then you discover in meditation this concept that love is an innate skill that we all have, and that we have this fantastic capacity for it. All of us have this incredibly powerful capacity for love, but that we're probably not practicing it very much. We just dole it out a bit here, there. Somebody does something nice, love them a bit. Maybe somebody does something bad and you give them the benefit of the judgment, you give them the benefit of the doubt, and you sort of think, oh, look, I'm very loving, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they're not quite as much of a complete idiot as I was thinking they were, but not really loving. And meditation says you have an infinite capacity, but are you practicing it? Are you developing it? Are you nurturing it? Are you cultivating it? Are you getting better at this skill? And in my case, the answer is probably no. And so I think while in the religious traditions there's a lot of talk about it, and there are some examples of what it looks like, there aren't a whole lot of exercises that you can do to actually develop this or work on it or improve it, other than some sort of idea of like you just intend to be slightly nicer or something like that. But in meditation, we're learning that we have this tool for unlocking our capacity, for being able to fulfill a little bit more of this potential that we all have to be loving. And that's perhaps what's going on. And I know most people just want to feel a bit better. They're like, I just want to feel better. Can we meditate so that I just feel a bit better? And I'm like, yes. Well, the good news is, even with this whole loving kindness thing, you will feel better. But there's more going on than just feeling better. We're potentially unlocking this capacity for love, if you want to. There's a guitarist, I'm told, who got a little bit fed up, a fantastic sort of world famous award-winning guitarist who got fed up with people always telling him how amazing he was. And they were like, oh, the way you play it's so beautiful. I would do anything. I would just wish that I could play like you. And he got a bit fed up with this. So he just started being a bit obstreperous, really. People would say, oh, I wish I could play guitar like you. And he would just look them in the eye and go, no, you don't. They go, no, I do. I wish I could play guitar like you. It's so amazing. You create this beauty. And he would look at them again and just reaffirm, no, you don't. You don't want to play guitar like me. No, I do. No, you don't. And his point was that people say they want to play guitar like him. But if they really wanted to play guitar like him, they probably could. They just need to practice 4 or 5 hours a day for several years. But they say they want to, and they can. They're just not putting in the work. So I love this idea. I love this idea that Justin is a loving person. This fiction I have in my mind that I am some kind of saint. That I have this, underneath it all, I am loving. And surely people recognize that, even though I don't really practice it at all. And I'm confusing capacity with practice. So the question is, do I want to become loving? I mean, I think I do. But do I? Because I haven't done as much practice. Like, there are people who really, really work at this. So like I say, if you want to really start to live up to your potential as a really powerful, loving person, you can. This is the tool to do that, if you want to. And it's work. But it's pretty nice work. It's mostly work that makes you feel better. And in this, we're mostly working on ourselves. So I know there's this sort of philosophy, we should be loving others. And that's great. And I'm all in favor. And I think that's fantastic. And it's worthwhile and everything else. But within this tradition, within the meditation world, you have to start by loving yourself. If you cannot receive love, you're not really qualified to give it, or not give it as much as you might. So a lot of the emphasis at the beginning in love training and loving kindness training is on yourself. It's on that ability to receive love, to find where you have built barriers against it within yourself, and then to undo them or to relax them or soften them and start to allow yourself to love yourself a little more. And that's easily said. It's harder to do, but this is the practice. So let's do some meditation. We're doing the same meditations as we did last week. The second one is going to have a slight difference, but the first one was the same. So just invite you to take your seat such that you're comfortable and take a nice deep breath in and let it all the way out. Once again, nice deep breath in. Hold it at the top for a moment. And then let it out very slowly. Just noticing any tension you're holding in your body. And seeing if you can release it. And then allow your breathing to return to normal. Just invite you to picture yourself in a place where you feel very safe and comfortable. Might be in your house, on your deck, in your garden. Might be at the beach, or in a meadow. Picturing a place where you feel extremely safe and comfortable. And then I'm just going to ask you to bring to mind various people who, throughout your life or at various points in your life, have loved you, have cared for you, have cared about you. So you might bring to mind somebody immediately. It can be a pet, it can be your dog. A person that you know cares for you tremendously right now. And just see them with you in this place. And I'm going to ask you to invite some more people, perhaps from earlier on in your life. When you were a kid growing up, maybe you had a best friend. And it's just them as they were then. This person that cared for you. It might have been a relative, an aunt, grandfather, somebody who really looked out for you, who was really interested in you. Might have been a teacher who noticed you, who saw your potential and nurtured you. If you went to college, maybe there was a colleague that you met, friend, you bonded. And it doesn't matter what happened to the friendship later. Just at that moment in time, they saw you. They cared about you. So just seeing these people in front of you and recognizing that they all cared for you. And see if you can allow yourself to absorb that. Seeing their eyes, seeing their smiles, feeling their warmth, their heart, their kindness towards you. Allowing it to fill you up. You might have a character from history, or a religious figure, or just an inspiration to you, who epitomized this incredible capacity for universal love. You can invite them to join your group as well. Recognizing this tremendous strength and power they had to love all people. Might be a Mother Teresa or Martin Luther King or Nelson Mandela, or a religious figure. And I think one of the things is we tend to have this mistaken view of ourselves as being unworthy of love. As if these people could really see us, then they wouldn't love us. If they could see our flaws, our imperfections, our vanity, our selfishness. But the real truth is that although we think we do a pretty good job of trying to hide all that stuff, again, we're wrong most of the time. Most people know all that stuff about us. And these people care about you anyway. They loved you at those moments in time in spite of all those flaws. And just allow that to fill you up. To recognize that they had this capacity where perhaps you're still not quite there yet, able to really love yourself in spite of all of your imperfections. Some people say to maybe visualize their love as rays of sunlight. Entering you, warming you, filling you up from the tips of your toes to the top of your head. You might like to visualize them taking care of you, maybe putting a blanket over you, making you tea or feeding you. Just allowing yourself to absorb this care, this kindness, this love. It's always available to you. And just looking them in the eye and maybe thanking them for these moments in your life. Thanking them for coming this evening. And taking a deep breath in and let it out. And just allowing yourself to connect back to your breath, connect back to your body, noticing the sensations in what you're sitting on, what your feet can feel, what your hands can feel. And then when you're ready, open your eyes and connect yourself back into your room. So I forgot to mention, but if you've got any questions, please fill it out on the chat. Reed is available. I think Douglas might be on as well, but Reed is definitely available. Mr. Spin Paint is his moniker. So if you've got anything, because This is where I start to get a little bit more in your face, a little bit more direct, a little bit more confrontational, saying, hey, do you want to love? Do you want to? Really? So these exercises. So the loving kindness exercise, the framework it comes out of is this Buddhist framework. So it's not that I'm particularly enamored of the Buddhist thing, but they've done some work on these meditation things and some frameworks like love. And there are other frameworks and other traditions, I know, but this one I'm going to share with you tonight suggests there are sort of 4 aspects to this. And love is a difficult term because it means lots of different things. There is an aspect to it which is a noun. There's definitely an aspect to it as a verb. So we love, but we receive love. We give love, and we love. So even in English, it's pretty confusing. The Greeks have 5 words for it. And the Buddhists sort of represented in sort of 4 different ways. One of them is this simple aspect that we probably most closely associate with just love, which is the well-wishing. It's wishing people well. It's wishing for people's happiness. It's wishing for people to do well, to be healthy, to be happy, to live with joy, to be safe. So it's wishing people well is sort of stage 1. And it's a great feeling. It's a very powerful feeling. It's a very warm feeling. And we all have this capacity to wish people well. And that is this first aspect of love. Then the second aspect is perhaps better represented by the word compassion. And compassion and love are definitely in the same sphere. They're linked. But there is a sort of subtle difference. Compassion involves, well, on the one level it involves empathy. So it involves the willingness to feel somebody else's pain and suffering. It's that willingness to go there, to go to that step where you see somebody in pain, see somebody sad, in grief, see somebody hurt. And you are prepared to allow yourself to feel that, to feel their pain and their suffering. And then there's a step beyond empathy. So empathy is just the feeling. It's just having that sympathetic response of feeling their feeling, or at least imagining what they're feeling. And then compassion involves this extra step where, and this is a bit subtle, but where you want to do something about it. So compassion is the urge to try to do something about somebody's suffering. It's not actually doing something about it. Not that there's anything wrong with doing something to help or to serve somebody else who may be struggling or suffering. But compassion can simply involve the desire, the wish, willing to want to help somebody. And an example might be that, let's say somebody is dying, and you feel maybe the struggle and the sadness and the grief, and you want to do something about it. You hear that somebody has terminal cancer, and you want to do something about it. The truth is, you can't. There's not much you can do. But that wanting to do something about it is the compassion. It's that willingness to go to that step. Now, compassion and love are a little bit different because compassion does involve suffering. It involves wishing somebody not to suffer. So it's a little bit subtly different than just wishing somebody well. We're going to that step of recognizing somebody's struggle. Love is just like, I hope you're fine. I hope you're great. I hope you get well. Compassion is the recognition. It's stepping into their pain and their suffering and wanting to do something about it. And it's a little bit of an edgy situation because if you go too much, you can get overloaded by empathy. And we see that a lot in frontline workers like healthcare workers or the police or fire brigades or people in the army. People who are exposed to a great deal of trauma can get too much. They can get too much exposure to pain and suffering. Third world aid workers, for example, is another category where there's a great deal of burnout, or actually people in working in many NGOs and charities can get that burnout because they just see too much. There's too much. So one has to be very careful with compassion. You can overdo it, and you have to find that balance, and that requires great wisdom. And sometimes it involves going over the edge and finding out where that edge is, and then having to recover and pull yourself back. So compassion is definitely braver than love. It's a step up, if you like. It's that willingness to experience a little bit of pain. And you don't have to do this, of course. But I'm just saying that, you know, within this tradition, here's the model, is that there is love and then there is compassion. The third piece doesn't sound as bad, but I often think it's like just insane, is sympathetic joy, is what it's known as. Sympathetic joy is this idea that you are happy for somebody else to be happy. So somebody else is hugely successful, and you're like genuinely pleased for them. And maybe you're a better person than I am, you can do this. But you probably at the very least know somebody who, if something is going really well for you, if your life has turned out well, if you've won the lottery, or you've got a great promotion, or you've fallen in love, and you tell this person, they are genuinely pleased for you, as opposed to the slight resentment, because they wanted to feel that. They wanted the promotion. They wanted the success. They wanted the love. So instead of seeing it as a reflection on what they don't have, somebody is just genuinely happy for you, known as sympathetic joy. And this is something where I have a long, long way to go. I know that, I'm genuinely happy for my friends who do well, but I also notice that when, I'm on this website and things like that, I have an email list, and there's about 450 people on the email list. There's only about 150 people who are really active on it, sort of actually open their emails and things like that, but that's okay. But anyway, so 450 is like the big number. That's the high number. And it's taken a long time to get there, and, not dissatisfied with that at all. And then my friend Douglas, who some of you know, and he's maybe even online right now, but he's teaching, and he has an email list, and there are 3,000 people on his email list. And I'm like, I'm so happy for you. And of course, part of me is, and there's another part of me that's like, how does he have 3,000 people? Why don't I have 3,000 people? So I have a ways to go in my sympathetic joy. There is something to sympathetic joy that I think is quite important with regards to meditation, though, which is just to recognize that this sympathetic joy thing, it's an advanced state. Most people, most of us, aren't very good at it. Most people aren't very good at it. So, when it comes to meditation, let's just say hypothetically, you are meditating and you have a great meditation and it's fantastic, and you see Jesus in Technicolor, or you experience oneness and your heart opens blissfully, or you feel yourself exploding into millions of pieces and becoming one with the universe. Whatever it is, sometimes these things happen. Not often, but sometimes they do. The instruction in classic meditation schools is don't tell anybody. And it's not that it's not good to have those things. It is not that it's not good to share with people that you find meditation valuable. It is that sympathetic joy is unusual. So if you go and say, I had the most amazing meditation, I had all these things, I saw all these colors, I had all these experiences, like my heart exploded. If you tell somebody about that, it's unlikely they're going to feel sympathetic joy. You're probably just going to kind of ruin their day, because they're going to go, I didn't feel any of those things. So in general, recognizing that this sympathetic joy thing is unusual and difficult and an advanced state of this kind of generosity, kindness. Yeah. Try not to share your really cool experiences. The exception to that is perhaps with me, or If you have a meditation teacher, somebody else, you can share it with them and talk about it and share it, and they will be delighted for you. It's like, seeing the fruits of these things come to life. So it's fun. So that's okay. But in general, we don't talk about it much. So, and that's why. That's one of the reasons why. Sympathetic joy, it's like what Instagram is the opposite of. Everybody's like, hey, look how wonderful my life is. And everybody else is like, oh, I'm pissed. Why isn't my life that good? So, sympathetic joy. Now, the last piece is, it's a weird word, equanimity. And I think it sounds like balance, and it is balance in many ways. And it means a lot of things, and there are whole long books written about equanimity, and it's a wonderful thing in many ways. But one of the ways I like to think about it, certainly as far as thinking about this whole love and compassion thing, is that I think ultimately, if one gets really good at this love stuff and the compassion piece, the truth is that you can see the absolute most extraordinary beauty in the world, and you can experience this incredible thing that we call love, and you can practice it, and it's amazing. And you can see other people having this capacity for it. You will hone in on those stories of true altruism and heroes and heroic stories, and really notice that. But with the compassion piece, you're also going to notice all of the ugliness of life, all of the pain of life, all of the suffering in life. And they are both true. And most of us would rather not face up to the ugly side. We'd rather pretend it's not there, or compartmentalize it and go, oh, well, homelessness is a problem, and I'm just going to, recognize it's a problem, and I can't really do anything about it. And maybe I'll send some money to a charity, but that's, what can I do? This person is suffering. Well, it's a complex problem, and we can intellectualize it, and we won't actually engage with the pain or the suffering of the problem. And the brutal truth is that you can't fix the problem. It's complex. And maybe it's helpful to give somebody some money, and maybe it's not helpful to give somebody some money. You don't know. It's difficult to have that wisdom. So we can intellectualize it, compartmentalize it, and cut ourselves off from the pain and the suffering of life. And I think this equanimity piece is that this sort of almost ultimate state is this ability to hold the beauty of life in one hand, but also able to hold simultaneously, to hold the reality of the pain and suffering of life, and to be able to hold both of those without shying away from them, and be able to hold that in balance. So we're not overwhelmed by the pain and the suffering, and we're not overly fixated on it and how terrible the world is and how it's all going to hell. And we're not, looking at the world as unicorns and rainbows and like, isn't it all wonderful? And like, all is one. We're not on either extreme. We're able to do both, able to hold the world as it is, its beauty and its ugliness, and to hold both. And I think that's possibly, these are the four states. This is the four model of love. So I think the love thing is great, and feeling it and experiencing it and being kinder, being more generous, starting to avoid judgment. It's a great start. But I think there's a reason all these great religions and philosophies have always idolized and idealized this thing that we call love. And that is not because we're all born with this natural capacity. What's so great about being born with a natural capacity? It'd be like me saying, I'm so glad, I'm so proud of my blue eyes. I didn't do anything to get my eyes. I didn't do anything to get this capacity for love. So there would be no point in idolizing or idealizing the capacity for love. The point would be to idealize those people, or the process of uncovering, developing, and deepening our capacity for love. And I think these four things, it gives us four things to think about and four maybe ideal states to work on. As I said last week, heaven knows I'm not an expert in this. I am definitely a work in progress. But I think we all have this. We all have progress to make. And the work isn't that bad. It's quite pleasurable. And we start out with loving ourselves. So, love, compassion, sympathetic joy. I don't know if I'll ever get sympathetic joy, but I'll keep working at it. Keep doing the exercises. Maybe it'll happen one day. And then equanimity. So, we're going to do the same exercise as we did last week, this loving kindness exercise. But I invite you, and you don't have to do this, but I invite you to change your phrases this week. So last week I was pushing, if you like, the phrases of may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you live with joy. This week I'd like you to keep the last one, by all means, live with joy, or more traditionally the phrase is live with ease. But traditionally the first phrases are actually a little bit different. They're not may you be safe, may you be happy, may you be healthy. Traditionally the phrases are actually may you be free from danger, may you be free from mental suffering, may you be free from physical suffering, and then may you live with ease or may you live with joy. And the thing is, may you be free from danger, may you be free from mental suffering, may you be free from physical suffering, is bringing into mind the reality of suffering. And for some people that's a bit uncomfortable, but this is the step perhaps towards compassion, is this idea of recognizing that there is suffering and wishing that there wasn't. Knowing that in some cases there's nothing you can do about it. There is going to be suffering. But you're prepared to go to that space of wishing in an unfulfillable place, but wishing that there was not. So we are wishing somebody to be free from mental suffering, to be free from physical suffering. And then the last part of the exercise is to wish all beings be free from mental suffering, to wish all beings be free from physical suffering, for all beings to live with joy. Now, if you think about that, that's impossible. Like, most beings experience a great deal of suffering. Huge numbers of human beings, maybe even many of you, are experiencing great mental and physical suffering. But certainly people in war-torn countries, or places with famine, or places where coronavirus is running rampant without great health facilities, these people are experiencing great suffering. But we are going to the place of saying, of recognizing that that's the reality, but wishing it wasn't. And that takes courage, bravery, is to go to the space of recognizing that our wish cannot be fulfilled. Many animals live in appalling conditions, appalling lives. And we're going to that space and saying, we wish they didn't. May all beings be free from mental suffering. May all beings be free from physical suffering. And this is why love gets idealized. Because it's hard. To do it properly is hard. It takes courage. But if you're up for it, let's just try with the exercise. And actually, you don't have to think about it. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to change anything. We're not trying to force anything. We're just going to say the phrases. So, if I can invite you to sit up straight, such that you're comfortable but alert, and take a nice deep breath in. And let it out. And once again, nice deep breath in. and hold it at the top for a moment. And then let it out nice and slowly. And just releasing any tension you're holding in your body. And now I'd like you to bring to mind the person that you love the most easily. Somebody for whom it is very easy for you to send good wishes towards. And I don't want you to overthink what I've just talked about. It's just food for thought for another day. But for now, just bring this person to mind and open your heart towards them. And if you're up for the challenge, just say the phrases, "May you be free from mental suffering. May you be free from physical suffering. May you live with joy." And if you don't like this, or it's too much, don't worry about it. Just use whatever phrases you like. Or for some of you, just go with the feeling. But if you're willing to engage with this a little bit, just try it out. We're not trying to make this too hard. We're not trying to make this too difficult. We're not trying to make you suffer in any way at all. It's just a very subtle difference from wishing somebody well to wishing somebody to be free from suffering. So, picturing this person, may you be free from mental suffering. May you be free from physical suffering. May you live with joy. And just keep saying your phrases over and over with some intention, just resting your attention on the phrases. May you be free from mental suffering. May you be free from physical suffering. May you live with joy. And just keep saying those phrases for a couple of minutes. May you be free from mental suffering. May you be free from physical suffering. May you live with joy. Just see if you're holding back a little bit with your generosity, your kindness, and your love. Just take this opportunity to really open yourself up and love as fully as you can. Just saying the phrases. May you be free from mental suffering. May you be free from physical suffering. May you live with joy. Take a deep breath in and let it out. And for the second part of the exercise, you're going to try and send yourself that same degree of kindness, gentleness, generosity, and love. And just see if you can repeat to yourself the phrases, "May I be free from mental suffering. May I be free from physical suffering. May I live with joy." May I be free from mental suffering. May I be free from physical suffering. May I live with joy. May I be free from mental suffering. May I be free from physical suffering. May I live with joy. And take a deep breath in and let it out. For the third part of the exercise, we're going to picture what's known as the neutral person, which is somebody that's in your life but you don't know them very well. These days it might be a delivery person or somebody you see in the supermarket. It might be a neighbor that you haven't really met but you see every so often. And we're practicing our capacity for kindness, generosity, and unconditional love, so that we don't know them, but we know that they suffer. We know they struggle, just like you. And we're going to practice opening our heart towards somebody just for the sake of practicing it, of doing it. So picturing this person, opening your heart towards them as wide as you possibly can. And just repeating the phrases. May you be free from mental suffering. May you be free from physical suffering. May you live with joy. May you be free from mental suffering. May you be free from physical suffering. May you live with joy. May you be free from mental suffering. May you be free from physical suffering. May you live with joy. And take a deep breath in and let it out. And this is the fourth part of the exercise, is where we try and give ourselves a bit of a stretch and bring to mind what's known as your difficult person. Somebody that you find somewhat irritating or annoying. And what we're going to do is we're just going to try and find where our boundary is for giving out love, compassion, kindness, generosity. And this is supposed to be a little bit difficult. It's to find where our edge is, and then to see if we can play with that edge a little bit and maybe soften it. And you don't have to do this perfectly. Just see if you can find where that boundary is, and then maybe just love a little bit more. So picturing your difficult person and then just bringing them to mind, and then just repeating the phrases over and over with as much intent as you can bring. We're not trying to force anything, just finding where your edge is and then seeing if you can go a little further. Bringing them to mind and just repeating the phrases. May you be free from mental suffering. May you be free from physical suffering. May you live with joy. May you be free from mental suffering. May you be free from physical suffering. May you live with joy. May you be free from mental suffering. May you be free from physical suffering. May you live with joy. And if you're finding it very hard to connect the words to the person because they're very difficult, just stay with that. It's okay. This is what the exercise is for, is to find that edge where you find this very difficult. I've certainly picked somebody extremely difficult. And it's hard, but you just keep going. Just keep saying the phrases and just sit with the difficulty. May you be free from mental suffering. May you be free from physical suffering. May you live with joy. May you be free from mental suffering. May you be free from physical suffering. May you live with joy. And take another deep breath in. And let it out. For the last part of the exercise, we're just going to try and imagine all beings, all humans, all animals, all living creatures on the planet. And just opening our heart to find that we have so much more capacity for kindness, generosity, compassion, and love than we probably even come close to realizing. but just doing our best to imagine all beings, and at the very least, just repeating the phrases. May all beings be free from mental suffering. May all beings be free from physical suffering. May all beings live with joy. May all beings be free from mental suffering. May all beings be free from physical suffering. May all beings live with joy. May all beings be free from mental suffering. May all beings be free from physical suffering. May all beings live with joy. And take a deep breath in. And let it all the way out. And particularly with this meditation, don't be in too much of a rush to go straight back into your life, into your concerns, into your worries, to-dos. Just take a moment to connect back into your body, noticing your breathing. Noticing the physical sensations in your body. The big obvious ones. And the little subtle ones as well. And take another deep breath in. And let it out. And when you're ready, open your eyes and connect yourself back into the room. So at the end of the night, when I was studying with a meditation teacher, he used to have this great expression, because we'd have been meditating for a long time, and it's easy to become a little bit in your head, or just in the feeling of the meditation. And to quote the old American Express ad, he used to sort of say, okay, your body, don't leave the room without it. So just make sure you're connected before you do anything else this evening. Well, thank you very much for joining. Week 7, we're past halfway. And this is when start to talk a little bit more about why. Why do we meditate? And I know most people just want to feel a bit better, and so this is where I'm getting a little bit more upping the ante a bit, but I hope it's okay. This love thing, it can be a little confronting. I certainly found it confronting. I was like, you mean I haven't been loving my whole life? Yeah, Earth to Justin. No, you have work to do. If you want to. You don't have to. I'm sure you're very loving and kind and generous, just as you are. But if you want to play this game, people have said throughout history, every culture, every philosophy, every religion says this is the game. This is the game. Love is the game. That's the whole ball of wax. This is the whole point of life. This thing. And it's not just as easy as, sometimes you feel like it. Somebody's nice to you, you love them. Somebody's not so nice to you, you don't love them. It's a bigger game than that. The beauty of meditation is it gives us the tools to be able to play. It gives us the tools to get better at this. This thing that everybody has said is so amazing. Well, this is the path to find out why They think it's so amazing. So I hope you'll stick with me. This week, every morning we'll be doing these meditations again at 8:30 if you can join on YouTube. Otherwise, we'll be back next week to cover another one of these why topics. We'll still be doing lots of meditation, and we'll still be going over the basics and everything else, but more of a focus as well on what's at stake here. Why is this meditation thing so important, so useful? So I'd like to thank Reed for being available for everybody, and please feel free to reach out to him if you've got any questions. And I'll be here same time, same place next week. If you've got any questions, please reach out through the website or by email. Always available, always really happy to try and be of service in any way I can. So don't hesitate to get in touch. Thank you so much for your attention, everybody. Have a great week.